But with that said, I'm jumping straight into it today because I do want to get off at a reasonable time. Fingers crossed here, but I am going to absolutely do my best. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm normally talking about, what's happened, what I believe is going to happen in the future. This time, I want to talk about what has happened in the past here. Today, one of our top stocks essentially came out and jumped up another 10 to 24% today. And sometimes sometimes I don't share just how amazing these wins are. But today, this is actually going to be a deep dive on one of our top stocks for 2025. And to be fair, we started buying this stock 2 years ago. 2 years ago, back when it was $17 a share. Back then, I could not find a single person talking about this stock. There was nobody on Wall Street that I was able to find who was talking about this stock. Around that time as well, everybody was focused on the obvious companies, the NVIDIAs, the AMDs of the world. Nobody was talking about this company that we started buying back when it was roughly $17. And by the way, that stock as of right now is $180. That is more than a 10x return in the past 2 years. But to be fair, it has not been a smooth ride. But when you have conviction, discipline, and a system, things tend to work themselves out. Yesterday, one of our top companies came out and gave us an update for how they've been performing. The name of that company, just so that everybody is here on the same page, the name of that company is none other than Credo Technologies, ticker CRDO. We have been buying this company again for the last 2 years or so. They came out yesterday to give us an update. Yesterday, or at around like 4:10 p.m. Eastern, they came out and gave us an update for how things have been going for the last quarter. And the only thing that I can say is I told you so. It's not every day where I can get up here and like brag that hard. But when you get 10x returns in 2 years, it's time to toot your horn a little bit. We're going to do a little deep dive on Credo because I want people to understand what has been going on with this company, why it has been so impressive, and more importantly, like the emotions that come along with this process. Because again, this is not an easy journey. You have to truly control your emotions in this journey. But nonetheless, it worked out very well. With that said, this is episode, I think, 13 of the Benson Report. My name is Phillip Aubrey, and I am your host. And of course, I am the CEO of Benson AI. For those that don't know, what Benson does is we use AI to do all of your investing for you all automatically. The buying, the selling, the research, the reinvesting, all of it, the monitoring, the whole nine. We do it all for you. And the Benson Report is basically like my YouTube special where I come on about twice a week to talk about what's happening in the market, how are we benefiting from it, and more importantly, how are we making money off of these situations? Today happens to be like that third point. How are we making money off of this? But I want to do something a little bit different, which is share some of the insight that went into this company just so that you guys get an idea of this entire journey, because I know that everybody only talks about the highs. Yes, we did 10x our money in 2 years with this stock, which has been a little over 2 years, but which has been absolutely phenomenal. But again, it has not been just easy peasy. There are ups and downs along the journey, and I want to pull, I guess, the curtains open a little bit just to say like, hey, this is what you should expect when you're on this journey and you're doing the job well. Today's episode is, of course, titled 10x in 2 years. And we are going to do an inside look at Credo Technologies and why we picked this out, how we identified it, again, a little over 2 years ago when nobody cared about this company. Again, the market was ignoring these sorts of stocks. It was $17 at the time, and the only thing that everybody cared about was NVIDIA. Two, we're going to jump into the update that Credo gave us just yesterday. Management came out, gave us an update, and it sent the stock up roughly 18% after hours. I think at market open today, it jumped up to a total of like 25% gains. And then third, we're going to talk about what this means for Credo going forward. And more importantly, what this means for you if you hold Credo or you're thinking about jumping into Credo. Just want to provide you, some pros and cons for you to think about if you're, of course, doing this all on your own. Now, if you have been doing this on your own, I will say I can guarantee you if you found Credo, it was through me. If you are doing this on your own, I would also say that I can guarantee you that your returns are not as high. And the reason why I'm pretty confident in that, because when a stock drops, the way Credo did drop, by the way that Credo drops, it's hard to be like, hey, yes, I'm going to go buy more. It's a very difficult process, and that is exactly why we have AI doing the job for us. Again, last little not so shameless plug here. If you need help with this investing game, you should be using AI. You should not be trying to do this on your own, mainly because there's an emotional part of investing that is really difficult to manage. But in addition to that, you likely just don't have the amount of time to do all of the research that AI can do for you in this game. So if your goal is to really get ahead and crush it, go and check out Benson AI straight to your iPhone, download it. I will shoot you a text. Olive, before I jumped on YouTube Live, Olive shot me a message here to say, hey, was that actually you texting me? Yes. If you sign up for Benson, I will actually reach out to you because I simply want to make sure that you, one, understand who's behind the product, but two, help you get set up in case anything goes wrong. And I also want to be able to answer any questions that you have. That is actually the fun part about work, getting to talk to regular people about this investing process here. I absolutely love it. Marissa, it is good to see you here. And with that said, we're jumping straight into it. I want to rewind a little bit here because we found Credo late 2023 / early 2024. Around that time, it was essentially trading for $15 to about $17 for months. So when you talk about this investing journey, you make your first purchase, everybody wants to see it jump up 20% overnight. For months, it sat pretty much flat, hovering right around $15 to $17. Right before I purchased it, I saw it for around $7. It jumped up to $15, and I was just like, all right, I got to pull the plug. I actually have to jump in here. And I made my first purchase because when I think about this investing process, it is not, oh my God, I got $10,000. Let me throw it in all on day one. That takes a lot of conviction. And more importantly, it sets you up for a very difficult journey if something happens to go wrong. And in this case, something did go wrong. It was fine though. So what I did is I bought a little bit. I bought a little bit at around $15. And for months, I think it was probably like 4 or 5 months, it sat pretty much flat. Around that time, in addition to that, this company was only generating about $52 or so million in quarterly revenue. By the way, wait until you hear how much revenue they brought in this quarter. But yes, back when I first found this company, they were only bringing in roughly $50 or $60 million in quarterly revenue. And again, around that time, you could not find anybody really on Wall Street talking about this stock. This was not, of course, on the news. This was not going to be on your TikTok. So this is why I say, if I ever bump into people and they're like, oh, I own Credo, I'm like, cool. That means you saw one of my early videos, and I'm glad that you did your research, jumped on it, or more importantly, you most likely jumped on Benson. And that sort of stuff makes me feel good because, again, the goal is to help bring stocks that, everybody is not going to be privy to. This has happened multiple times where we found a stock 2 or so years before everyone else started talking about it. And by the time everybody starts talking about it, that's when I'm like, hey, it's totally fine to share this a bit more publicly. Today, the stock is at about $180. Most people on Benson that own this stock are up over 120% already. So I'm like, at this point, we can do a public a discourse. We can have a public discourse on this company because we on the Benson side have really, got some really good returns off of this. Most people have already doubled their money on this investment, and it feels good. It feels really good to be a part of the journey, I would say as well. And last thing before jumping into the next point here, around that time, again, everybody only cared about NVIDIA, AMD, like the obvious and boring stuff. And again, this is not to say that NVIDIA or AMD is a bad company. All we're saying is just that the only thing people were talking about around that time was NVIDIA and AMD. And what I started to see in the market was that the semiconductor space was pretty much off of a hard correction. What does that mean? Around that time, basically the entire industry got slapped in the face hard. And when I say slapped in the face hard, I mean some of our favorite companies around that time dropped 20%. And what we had to do as investors is say, hey, does this mean we picked wrong, or does this mean everyone else is missing out on the value that we are looking at? And there were a few things that allowed us to really build some conviction around that time. One of the bigger things was just that around that time, even though the semiconductor space had just got beat up, everybody was starting to talk about ChatGPT. And because ChatGPT had just launched, I think ChatGPT launched 2022 or 2023, November, somewhere around there. Because ChatGPT had just launched, what we started to see were early signs of aggressive spending in the AI space. And of course, semiconductors fall under the AI space. But again, nobody was that excited about semiconductors around this time. And it was, of course, because there was a heavy correction. And that's just a part of the journey when you're an investor. You expect to find dips. And if you're good at it, you buy dips. You don't panic. You buy the dips. Assuming that the company is still solid, of course, you buy those dips. So that is around what was happening around that time. But you guys still don't know what Credo actually is. So let me explain this first, because I do think that is incredibly important. Credo in plain English, and I need some feedback here because y'all know I like to nerd out, but Credo in plain English is a very simple company. You know how home Wi-Fi routers connect all of the devices in your house? Credo essentially does something very similar, but for data centers. They make the cables that connects thousands of AI chips. So again, everybody's talking about the NVIDIA AI chips, the TPUs from Google, and of course, AMD's chips. That's the exciting stuff that everybody loves right now. But everyone was ignoring the fact that those chips all need cables in order to connect and build these data centers that we're all talking about today. Back then, though, nobody was talking about all of the connectivity that is required when you are building a data center. And here's why that matters, essentially. No matter how good your AI chips are, you need cables to connect all of those AI chips. You could have the smartest AI chips on Earth, but those AI chips are going to be absolutely useless unless you connect them to other AI chips to generate, for lack of better words, this massive brain. Because that is what I think of when I think of what is a data center. A data center is really a bunch of AI chips, the NVIDIA chips, the AMD chips, or even the Google TPU chips, all in one warehouse. Warehouses that are sometimes the sizes of cities. No joke. Sometimes these warehouses are quite literally the size of a city, a small city, or a town, whatever. Nonetheless, thousands and thousands of AI chips all in this one big factory. Now, in order to get these AI chips or these AI tools to be as smart as they are, you need all 1,000 of those chips to be connected to each other using cables. And of course, Credo happens to make those cables that connects all of these, AI chips. Plain and simple. So even if you're an investor in Credo, And I know that some people really love Benson and that allows them to feel confident. They'll listen to it. And, over time, you start to build up trust with people. So they're like, yeah, if it's on Benson, I trust it. But, some people on Benson probably don't know what Credo does. But that's it. They build the cables that connect all of those AI chips that everybody's excited about. Now, the problem with traditional cables is just that in a data center, they fail. And when you are thinking about failing, that means your chat GPT doesn't work. That means all of the AI products, heck, even Benson, does not work if those cables are not like, the top tier Credo cables. Credo builds the top of the line cables to connect all of these AI chips. So when you're looking at, the old tech stack, it was just like, hey, we need really good cables that are incredibly reliable if we're going to roll out AI to millions and millions of people. So Credo pretty much jumped to the top of the list because it's only like 3 real players that do cables and do it well for AI data centers. Credo happens to be one of the best ones. And to be fair, I bought 2 at that time. I was not, as super confident in Credo. I want to see more data come in, but around that time I bought 2. But nonetheless, that is essentially what Credo is and what they actually build. A little fun fact about Credo is just that their cables are 1,000 times more reliable and they use half of the power. That is not marketing. That is a real advantage that can be quantified. So back in 2023, we were asking the one simple question. As AI systems get bigger and bigger, who is going to solve the connection problem? Even today, we are all still trying to figure out how are we going to solve the electricity problem. Even today, I don't think most people even know that, connection is a problem for these data centers. So back then, we were asking ourselves that one simple question. If all of these data centers are about to come online in the next 10 years, who is going to solve the problem of connecting all of these AI chips? And our answer at that time was Credo. This is again end of 2023 when we first started scooping this stock up. And I boil this down to a very simple thesis. The bigger AI gets, the more cables you are going to need to connect all of those chips. This is not a one-time purchase either. It scales as AI data center scales. So the more data centers you have in the country, the more cables you're going to need to connect all of those chips that live inside of that data center. That's really it. Sometimes we like to overcomplicate this investing process, but it really boils down to a very simple thesis. You're paying attention to what's happening in the real world right now. You are thinking about, hey, if this continues, where is the world going to be in the next 5 or 10 years? And you're breaking that down and just starting to poke and poke and poke to ask more and more questions that allow you to build confidence in these companies. And again, this is not saying that on day one, you're going to be confident and say, hey, throw $100,000 at Credo. By the way, I wish I would have thrown $100,000 in Credo. But of course, I'm human. There's no way I would have had the confidence to say, hey, throw $100,000 in Credo at that time. Again, for the first 5 or 6 months of owning this stock, it was pretty much flat, $15 to $17. Again, today, it's at roughly 180. What is the actual number? As of right now, what is Credo at? Credo, as of right now, is at 100 and loading up. Credo is at $188 as of right now. By the time tomorrow hits, it's going to be 189. But again, like Courtney just said, hindsight is always 20/20. But because, nobody has perfect vision, what we did is we bought a little, waited to see how their next earning report came out. And then after that, we were like, cool. They're still performing well. I'm going to buy a little bit more. Then I'm going to sit back again, see how it performs for the next quarter, and then buy a little bit more. And then I'm going to do more research to see, hey, has this overall thesis remained the same? As AI spend goes up, data center builds go up, And as a result, we need more connections. So it was a very simple thesis, and it happened to work out well, to the point where if you would have done this with us at that time, this would have been the equivalent of turning $100 into $1,100, while, again, not lifting a finger. Really that simple, not lifting a finger. You throw in $100, a 10x returns means that 100 turns into $1,100. So that's why I say, like, I really wish, of course, I would have thrown $100,000 in there. But, again, I'm human. I am human. So you can't see the future, but this is where the research and the confidence allows you to kind of get good at this game. And to be fair, it's not as if, I'm doing all the research on my own. This is why I built the whole company. Benson is doing all the research. And then we're going in, validating it, checking if it's true or not, X, Y, and Z. It's a beautiful process. It's like using the brain of AI, the real common sense of humans, and saying, cool, how do we really think about this? And again, when we were looking at this company around that time, what we saw was just that, one, they essentially made everything themselves. They were not dependent on any external parties. Two, they had also landed some really huge customers. Amazon, Microsoft, Google were already buying their products, AKA the largest builders of this AI build-out stuff. The market also for AI was growing a lot faster. It was growing incredibly fast. And that's because all of those Googles, Amazons, and blah, blah, blahs of the world were starting to spend a lot of money. And then three, competition was limited. The big guys were all focused on chips. Nobody cared about connection issues. So the risk reward was very lopsided in a good way. If AI spending took off like what we thought 2 years ago, Credo, ticker CRDO, was going to be perfectly positioned to benefit from this. And I mean perfectly. And what I believed at that point in time was just that, and this is where the confidence comes in, what I believed at that time was just that, hey, I think NVIDIA is a phenomenal company, but I think everyone else is stupid. There's no way to say that nicely, but I'm like, how the heck do we have 1 million chips? And you're very welcome. And we don't think about how we connect all these chips. How are you looking at only 5 people who can build the connection for these chips and say, nah, they don't matter? This is an entire ecosystem. Again, most people look at this AI stuff as just NVIDIA chips. While the smart people pulling up the hood and say, cool, if we want all of these NVIDIA chips, what are the other things that must be true? And one of those things that absolutely must be true, you got to connect all of those chips. And what this meant for us was very simple. It boiled down to 3 simple pieces. Number 1, size position really mattered here. This was not one of those things where we could say, hey, we were strong and wrong. We started small and then we bought more as the company continued to show us that they were doing well. And it's not just looking at the stocks, you're looking at revenue. We don't care about the stock price in the short term. The stock price in the short term is just noise. What you really care about is, are they growing their revenue? Are the customers loving their products? Are the customers coming back to buy even more? Those are the things that tell you if the stock is going to shoot up in the future. 2, the time horizon is incredibly important. If we would have only held Credo for 3 months, we would have looked like morons. Again, over the past 2 years, the stock has jumped up over 10x. We started buying it at like 15, 17. Today is at 88, sorry. We would have looked like morons if we only held it for 3 months. Heck, we would have looked like morons if we only held it for 6 months. Time horizon was incredibly important. So when I first purchased this stock, when I first even shared it on Benson, this is back when the product was really crappy. You guys haven't seen the real crappy version, unless you're like one of the day ones here. Back then, every time we shared a stock, we were like, hey, we are going to hold on to this stock for at least, and in this Credo's case, 3 years. That was the timeline we gave ourselves to say, hey, if we are smart and this works in our favors, we at least need to hold it for 3 years. Again, this was not one of those, oh, I'm just going to hold it for 6 months to see how it goes. That's not how you win in this game. You win in this game by saying, cool, where's the future going? And let me start preparing for that future. It didn't take us 3 years to see those good wins, but it did take us more than 6 months. I will say that for sure. And then the last thing that was incredibly important here was that you had to believe, and you had to believe that in your heart of hearts, that the AI spend that is happening is much larger than just chips. And to me, that felt obvious. That was incredibly obvious to me. But at that time, people did not agree. Everyone only cared about AMD, NVIDIA, and the crap. Shoot, yeah, it's just AMD and NVIDIA. That's it. And I'm like, again, if all of these AI chips are coming online, we need connectivity to make it work. But if you did not understand that, or you did not believe that that was a requirement, there's no way that you would have been able to stick it out. So again, all of these things go into why I ultimately went out and started building my actual company, Benson. It was simple. You can have AI do all of this research for you. It will give you audio updates for how this is going. It will share the research behind it and allow you to say, cool, I agree. And if you agree, it'll start buying and buying and buying and buying for you all automatically. But trying to manage this all on your own is a very difficult process. But again, this was our process for how we were doing it back in the crunchy days. Now, the AI is so much better than it was like 3 years ago. But today, we're smooth selling right now because this year has been absolutely phenomenal. But again, we identified Credo as an opportunity for everybody on Benson. With the main thing being that if AI is going to continue growing like we all believe it is, everybody was addicted to ChatGPT. Heck, people are still addicted to ChatGPT. Then what that is going to translate it to is just that people are going to want more AI chips. And if people want more AI chips, they are going to need more Credo cables. Plain and simple. It is, again, trying to look past the flashy stuff to say, hey, if this is true, what else must be true? And what I'm also trying to say here is that does not mean that you should have bought Credo at $17 like we did, $15, $17. That's not what I'm trying to say because one, you can't do that now. It's $188. But what I am saying is that this is the benefit to having systemic exposure to emerging markets. And of course, you combine that exposure with a automated investing discipline, boom, it's a happy medium. You are essentially getting on the train early and you are being disciplined and allowing the AI to automatically buy more and more and more well before anybody else noticed what happened. That is what we were essentially doing at that time. And that is, again, why we are still using AI to do our investing for us. Now, with that said, another thing that was happening around that time was that everyone was having huge arguments on whether or not NVIDIA was overvalued. But the actual bottleneck in the AI infrastructure started to move downstream. The GPU shortage was just temporary. That's it. It was temporary. But the connectivity shortage is permanent, or was permanent, and growing. The same way that we are all worried about electricity, electricity is just one of the issues with AI data centers right now. There's about a dozen more issues that nobody's talking about. But this is why we're sharing those stocks on Benson now. So in 2 years, we're finally going to reveal what they were for everybody else. But there's about a dozen other issues that people are not talking about right now. And some of when we share this in a few months or so, you're going to be like, well, duh, why did nobody tell us about this? I'll answer it for you why nobody will tell you about it beforehand. Because we like to chase the flashy things as people. We want to look at NVIDIA and be like, man, NVIDIA jumped up 30% in the year of 2025. That's great in the grand scheme of it. But Credo jumped up 164% this year in the same time. But again, NVIDIA has all of the headlines. That's the most important company on earth right now. To be fair, NVIDIA is a great company. This is not to talk negatively about NVIDIA. I still own NVIDIA, and most people that are investors also own NVIDIA. But with that said, NVIDIA is not going to be where you go if you want to see 100+% returns on an investment, in I guess a year. And it's because everybody's focusing on that. If you want to be good at this investing game, you want to start looking where other people are not paying attention. And that's a hard thing to do because, again, when we bought this stock the first time, people did not believe that connectivity was relevant in this entire game. And for me, I'm like, well, that's impossible. How can you say we're going to build all these data centers and you don't connect all the chips? Plain and simple. Now, what actually happened yesterday with the Credo update? After the bell, I think it was roughly 4:10 p.m. Eastern time, Credo came out to give us an update for how Q2 actually went. And remember, I told you, back when we first started buying Credo, they were bringing in roughly $52 million in quarterly revenue. Well, yesterday, they gave us an update. And they brought in $268 million in revenue in the past 3 months. To put that into perspective, that is 272% growth year over year. That is up 20% from the last quarter. So we have been buying this company since they were producing roughly $52 million in quarterly revenue. And yesterday, they just announced that they brought in $268 million in quarterly revenue. It's been a ride. But again, we bought it at around $50 million in quarterly revenue. Now it's at $268 million in quarterly revenue. And to put that also into perspective, people were only guessing that they were going to bring in $234 million. But instead, they brought in $268. They beat by roughly $33 million. They did 14% better than what Wall Street thought they were going to do. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Their earnings per share was around 67 cents per share. People only thought they were going to do 49 cents per share. They beat Wall Street estimates on the EPS side by 37%. 37%. Their gross margins are somewhere around 67%. Said otherwise, because gross margins, another one of those nerdy things that I'm going to explain to you, because why I love talking about this stuff. Gross margins, the way to think about this is simple. When somebody says, hey, their gross margins are 67%, to be fair, this is specifically their non-GAAP gross margins. I won't get into the details of non-GAAP versus GAAP. Nonetheless, what that means, 67%, means that for every dollar that they bring in, they get to keep roughly 67 cents of that dollar. Just insane. Just insane. This is live, by the way. Jojo, I see you asking questions there. This is live. Now, if you're on YouTube right now, this will be recorded so you can watch this later. But again, for every $1 that they bring in, they get to keep in $67. Their CEO came out on this earnings report and said, and I quote, "These are the strongest quarterly results in Credo's history, and they reflect the continued build out of the world's largest AI training and inference clusters." End quote. That is what the CEO said yesterday. I'll say that again. The CEO said that these are the strongest quarterly results in Credo's history. You could not have told me that this was going to happen 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it was like, hey, I'm going to test it out. I'm going to buy a little bit, wait, see how it goes. But you could not have told me that this would have happened this quickly. The best quarterly results in the company's history were reported yesterday. It's just insane. Just insane. And like, I love to put these sort of numbers into context. 272% year over year revenue growth. That, by the way, that's faster than what NVIDIA saw at their peak. NVIDIA has never grown this quickly. So again, while everybody's only focused on the NVIDIAs, the Googles of the world, NVIDIA has never, ever seen this level of growth when we're talking about percentage. ever. But again, you are not going to hear about Credo on the news. Maybe in a year or two, you'll hear about it. But hey, it doesn't matter. We're up 10x in the last 2 years on this. 2 and some change, but nonetheless, let's round to make it sound nice. Their operating margins. A year ago, they had single-digit operating margins. They transformed this company into a profit machine. And at the same time they did that, they have tripled their revenue. That is incredibly rare. Incredibly rare. They brought in $128 million in net income for a company, by the way, that was barely break even 18 months ago. They were at the point of break even 18 months ago. Today, they just reported, or yesterday, they just reported $128 million in net income for the last 3 months. These numbers are insane. But again, you're not going to hear about this on the news. I can guarantee you that we're only going to be talking about Google and NVIDIA for the foreseeable future, while we are looking at these sorts of companies jump up. And to be crystal clear here, Credo is not even one of our top 20 anymore. We still love Credo, still think it's a phenomenal company. But if Credo did well, I cannot wait to see what these other companies do. Because again, we've been buying this for the last 2 years, 2 and some change years. And during that time, we've started to identify deeper value companies. 2 years ago, in addition to that, Credo had 1 or 2 big customers. Today, they have 4 of the major tech companies as customers. Amazon, Microsoft, Google level companies. Each of those companies represent a little bit more than 10% of Credo's revenues. And their 5th big customer just started placing orders, by the way. So when the biggest companies in the world are all of your customers and they are all racing to buy your products, that's as good as it gets. You couldn't ask for more. NVIDIA has deep pockets. Google has deep pockets. Amazon has deep pockets. So when they say like, yo, tell us how much you need to give us what we want, you could not be a better positioned company. When I think about all of this, again, it boils down, it goes as followed. Number 1, AI clusters are getting bigger. Right now, people are building hundreds of thousands of GPUs. They're preparing to kind of build these AI clusters. They're getting larger. More GPUs means exponentially more connections needed. If you want to connect 1,000, GPUs, you're going to need a crap load of cables. Credo also happens to make the best connections in the business. They're selling their products, in addition to that, at higher margins to more customers. The results are simple. Revenue has tripled. Profits have quadrupled. This is classic infrastructure plays. Classic. Again, a few weeks ago, we did another live explaining, look, while everybody's focused on, digging for gold, you focus on selling or buying the shovels. Because if you want to dig for gold, you need shovels. This is what we started doing 2 years ago when we started buying Credo. You're going to be focused on GPUs, but in order for GPUs to exist and work how you think they're going to work, you need cables, aka you need Credo. Now, with that said, there is some level of interesting that's happening right now. Some analysts today still think that the stock is expensive. And I'm like, sure. But you thought this company was useless 2 years ago. Today, you think it's too expensive. Like, you're just never happy. On the other hand, if you ask me, I say growth like this is unheard of. Again, this is better than what NVIDIA has ever done. Growth like this is unheard of. Growth like this justifies a premium valuation. If revenue keeps growing at this sort of, pace, today's price is going to look cheap. Now, does that mean we think Credo is going to jump up another 1,000%? No. I don't think Credo is going to jump up another, 600%. No. Do I think Credo still has some juice to squeeze? Yes. How much? If you're on Benson, you don't have to worry about that. If you are doing this yourself, I'll leave that for you to figure out. That is the value of having AI do the work for you. Yeah, you could like every once in a while hear these stocks and be like, oh, I'm gonna add that to my radar. But you got to know what to do with it as well. You got to know when it's time to buy more. You got to know when it's time to get out. And to be fair, we're not getting out of Credo yet. But by the time we get out, you won't hear about it for a few months. But for now, we are enjoying Credo. Plain and simple. We are enjoying Credo. Now, with that said, that does not mean it's going to be a smooth ride. That does not mean there won't be bumps. There will be bumps. You just have to be smart enough to assess what to do with that bump and how to play it. If you're doing that on your own, that is where you dig into the research. That is where you start to say, what is causing this drop? Is this because of X or is this because of Z? Am I more confident or less confident? Now, of course, if you're on Benson, that's all handled for you. The AI is doing the investing so that you are not too worried about it. But if you're trying to do this on your own, those are some of the questions you want to start asking yourself as some of these exciting companies drop. Now, Credo, in addition to that, gave us an update for what they think they're going to be able to do for the next quarter. They just guided for roughly $340 million in revenue for the next 3 months. What? Credo just came out and said, hey, I know you were happy about these last 3 months, but these next 3 months are about to look crazy. We think we're going to be able to bring in $340 million. Wall Street, by the way, their guess was that Credo was going to be able to bring in $248 million. Credo said, Playboy, you're thinking too small. We think we're going to be able to do $340 million, aka $100 million more than what Wall Street thought they were going to announce. They guided for 37% above what analysts were expecting. That is not normal. That is not a normal beat and raise. That is management essentially saying, you have no idea how big this is getting. That is what Credo told us yesterday. You have no idea how big this is getting. I haven't used those little sound bites in a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Y'all. But with that said, management came out and said, yeah, you thinking too small, buddy. We got some revenue to pull in. For the full fiscal year, they are now expecting to bring in 170% more year over year for the full year. That is the equivalent of your annual salary being $100,000 in 1 year, and then in the next year is $270,000. Bruh, my salary going from $100,000 to $270,000 in 12 months is insane. That's what Credo just told us. Their revenue is going to be roughly 170% better than what it was for the last year. They also told us that the net margins are going to be roughly 45%. Net income is, based on these numbers and based on my analysis, net income is going to be more than quadruple than what it was last year. I think this sets us up for continued revisions higher. When a company beats by 14% and says, hey, we're guiding for an additional 37%, above what you think we can do, everybody else has to catch up. Everyone else has to catch up. But I also acknowledge that on the downside here, something that we are watching incredibly closely, we are watching this like a hawk right now. So again, I'll say this so that, if you want to do this on your own, you can at least know just one of the landmines that we're trying to watch for. Again, if you're on Benson, you're good. The AI is going to handle this for you. But there's one thing that we are paying attention to very closely, just one of the 3 or 4 things, because it's never all green. There's always something that you got to pay attention to. In this case, at this valuation, Credo needs to perform perfectly. So we have a list of about 13 different variables that we are tracking specifically for Credo. If they, do well in 11 of those 13, we may just call it quits and be like, hey, it's time to pack it up. But if they come out next quarter and they do 13 out of 13, we're going to say, cool, double down. Maybe let's buy some more. But again, if they do 11 out of those 13, we're probably going to be like, cool, this has been a fun ride. We've made a lot of money off of this. We're done. So again, at this valuation, Credo does have to perform nearly perfectly. Any stumble means that this stock will get slaughtered. So again, if you're trying to do this on your own, pay close attention. Track what you think is important. Our AI system is already tracking what we think is important, but if you're trying to do this on your own, you need to decide what you think is important for Credo. And what this means for our portfolios is quite simple at a high level. One of the major things that we believe right now is that AI spending is not slowing down. So everybody else is over there, oh my God, AI bubble is coming to pop. We are saying, nah, we think you're terribly wrong. We think they are going to continue spending even more money. That is one of those things that we believe with this sort of play here. 2, the picks and shovels, that strategy is working incredibly well. Incredibly well. You're focused on NVIDIA because that's the only thing you heard about. We're focused on all the companies that enable NVIDIA to exist. All the little credos that are saying, hey, if you want all of NVIDIA's chips, you need all of our products. NVIDIA jumps 30%, we jump 165%. That's where we're focused. And I know everybody else is like, oh yes, Google, NVIDIA. Again, fine companies, not where we're paying a lot of our attention to because there's a lot more value underneath the hood. Number 3, another one of those things that what this means for us is, and I'll give you another one of the 13 things that we're tracking. I'll give you this as a freebie. Why? Because I'm feeling generous today. We've done very well. Feeling generous. Another one of those 13 variables that we are tracking right now for Credo is their customer concentration. Their biggest customers account for 42% of their sales. That's a lot. That's a lot. That means Credo is banking on those big customers to continue spending more money. Now, to be fair, they are adding more customers and they're doing that aggressively. But it's not too many customers that are going to get better than having Amazon in your back pocket and Google in your back pocket. So, yes, Credo just gave us a spectacular quarter, but we're watching it incredibly closely. We are not going to announce when we get out. If you're not on Benson, you're going to have to decide when you get out. You're going to have to decide, hey, if Credo falls 15%, what are you going to do? You'll have to make that decision on your own. But if you're on Benson, of course, we got it taken care of. You sit back, enjoy the ride. We are essentially focused heavily on what other people are not paying attention to right now. And we're doing this across different sectors. We're not betting everything on one individual stock. We have at least a dozen stocks that have all jumped up over 100% in the last 12 months. At least a dozen. And the best part about all of this is just that because we're using AI, essentially all of this investing that's happening is all automated. Like people are buying 4 or 5 different stocks every single week on the T, while you are sitting around essentially looking at and saying like, okay, what is the news going to tell me is the good stock today? By that time, we didn't make 20 or so different individual purchases in like 2-3 weeks. We build conviction very quickly and we move quickly. That is one of those benefits of using AI to handle this for you. And then last thing that I want to share here, and this is another part that I don't think people are connecting the dots to. Credo just came out and they announced 3 new products. Management essentially said that Credo is going to expand their market from about, currently it's about a $3 billion market. They're going to expand it to about a $10 billion market. I want you to think about that. They're not just growing in their current business. They are launching into new markets that are 3 times larger than where they started. The stock price today reflects what they are selling now. This does not account for the fact that they are going to be launching new products in 2027 and 2028. That, I will say, is the opportunity that even after you read all of these Wall Street papers, I'm like, bro, are y'all still missing this? How is everybody missing this? They are still expanding. They're still identifying new areas to identify and bring on new customers. It's insane. So how we're thinking about the future right now. Where does Credo go from here? Let's look at what management is telling us alone. According to the call yesterday, they're saying, hey, for the entire year of 2026, we expect 170% year-over-year revenue growth. Into 2027, they said that, hey, mid-single-digit sequential growth is going to be continuing. In addition to that, they are launching new products, 3 new products in the next few years. Did y'all not hear that? They are announcing 3 or starting to sell 3 new products over the next few years. So let's zoom out a bit. What this really means. Their core business is still the moneymaker. Those cables that they sell today are still growing fast, double-digit growth every single quarter. And they keep adding more customers. But in addition to that, they're now about to start selling better cables. They're making a new cable that is going to work over longer distances. But it also has the same level of not failing. They're starting to test this product now. They expect revenue to start flowing in next year. Their second product that they're launching is their next gen cables. Think of these as like their current and great cables, but on steroids. The same reliability, but they can stretch 4 times further. 4 times further. Meaning they can reach the AI chip that is on the southwest corner and go all the way across the city to reach the other AI chip that is on the northeast corner. Again, they're building cables that work over longer distances. The CEO, Brennan, essentially said the market could more than double from where it's at today. Their last one, this is the one that actually got me excited. Their last product that they're also going to be announcing is memory. This is a bit technical. I will share just a peek at some of the other plays that we have already started laying down, buying up well before anybody's going to notice it. But memory is a huge problem in the whole ecosystem of AI. People got fast chips, but these chips don't have memory. They don't have memory. And because of that, that simply means now that Credo is jumping into the memory space, it's a whole nother ball game. Credo's new product is going to improve memory capacity by 30x. If you're doing any research on your own right now, I can guarantee you are only going to find 1 or 2 companies that are able to even focus on the memory space of this AI play. We've identified about a dozen. We've already started buying up two of them, two of the best ones in the memory space for AI. So the bigger picture here is that Credo is not a one-trick pony. Not anymore, for sure. They're becoming the company for connecting everything inside of these AI data centers. And keep in mind, AI data centers need a lot more than just chips and just cables. They need a lot more. So think about this. Got a little pop-up from Tickety Talk here. So let me just solve this CAPTCHA because TikTok wants to make sure that I'm still here. They said I did that wrong. Let me solve this CAPTCHA. Alrighty, almost there. All right, now TikTok knows that I'm still here talking. Think about this. Today, Credo sells cables that connect computers sitting next to each other. Tomorrow, they're going to be selling cables that can reach across an entire building. The day after that, they're going to be selling connections between memory and processors. And then after that, they'll start selling smart cables with software that prevent failures. They started with one product. Now they're starting to become the go-to for all of this. Plain and simple. And I wanna provide another piece of perspective here. Some investors are always going to say that the company is done with. This is where you build your chops as an investor. You block out the noise. You look at people and say, have you done the research on this? Have you done the research on this? Have you thought logically about this? Some people are going to say, oh, it has no more space to grow. What we think is just that we are still in the early innings of this AI stuff. Next year, all of these major players just have already announced that they're going to be spending more. Those are not just announcements. That is, hey, this is committed cash. We've already started placing the orders. You will have to make a decision on which side of, the aisle you want to be on. But what I can say here is that making the wrong decision in a moment like this, while we are watching the largest infrastructure build out in human history, making the wrong decision here can cost you a lot of money. Be smart for how you want to attack this game. You are going to hear naysayers all the way throughout your journey. Your job is to say, nah, I am grounded in, research. This is not just some random company I ever looked up. So if you're trying to do this on your own, this is where you want to build your chops to have confidence in the companies that you own. Because again, when I first purchased this company, I said, no matter what, I got to hold it for 3 years. It took at least 6 months to start seeing any movement. But even then, it was still saying, hey, I need to hold it for 3 years. And, we still have time in that 3-year window. The timeline has adjusted, definitely. But there is still, something to think about here. Again, if you're on Benson, we're handling this for you. You're good. You've already approved it. We're taking care of it. We are updating our research on a regular basis. Benson started buying this back when it was like $17. Today it's at about $190. So, and in the last 6 months, it's, last 12 months, I guess since January, up like 165%. By the way, in January of 2025, I came on TikTok here and I said, hey, we just announced our top companies for the year. Credo was one of them. So even if you didn't buy this with us back, beginning of 2024, in January of 2025, we still came out and said, hey, this is one of our top 10 for the entire year. And sure enough, it's up 165%. And by the way, we got 9 other ones that were our top 10 for the year. Another one is up 250%. So This has been a fun ride. 2025 has been a phenomenal year for us on this investing side. And if you got Nvidia, that's good. You did like 30%. Kudos there. But if you were using AI, it would have been a lot better. I tell you that. If you're on Benson right now, you've been owning Credo for, I guess a few months at this point. You've beat everybody that owns Nvidia. So with that said, I'm wrapping it up, y'all. I've been on for an hour and 8 minutes. I'm going to answer a few final questions before I dip. But with that said, some people here still don't know what Benson is. So Benson is your AI investing app that does all of your investing for you automatically. We research thousands of stocks each month and show you our best 10. Once you approve the ones you like, we take care of the rest, buying and selling all automatically. We just got a good question in the chat. Somebody asked, when will Benson be available for Android? I will be very honest, no time soon. Plyork, if you want to get access to our top 10 stocks and you're on an Android, you got two options. One, you can grab an iPad or even an old cheap iPhone and download the app, and that is where Benson will be able to do all of the buying, selling, research, monitoring all for you. Or you can go to meetbenson.com. Right at the top, you'll be able to sign up for our newsletter. And every month, to the T, we're going to send you our top 10 stocks, the same ones that we share with everybody on Benson. Now, with that, from there, you'll have to go out and say, cool, I'm going to buy these 3 or 4. You'll have to decide when you want to sell, all of that stuff. But those are your two options. But if you want to get the most out of the AI part, you absolutely want to be on an iPad, an Android, or something to allow the AI to do the investing for you. An old iPhone from Amazon will do the job. It does not need to be an iPhone 17. But those are the two options. Melissa, thanks for being here. I know it took you a little bit to get set up, but you're on the journey. This investing journey is a lot of fun as well. I think about it as like a roller coaster. And the only people that get injured on a roller coaster are the people who decide to take off their seatbelts and jump off midway through. But if you start a roller coaster, watch it go down and go up, and then you get to the finish line, you're going to be like, wow, that was fun. Much better than sitting down there and looking up at the roller coaster. That is what I think about this investing thing. At the end, if you do your job well, you come out on top. But no matter what, you're always going to be better off than the people who decide to sit on the sidelines. That is the game here. And we're just trying to make it easy. We're trying to say, hey, just use AI to do all the heavy lifting, all the research, the buying, selling, blah, blah, blah. Crazy Ran, I love that. I love that. You are very welcome. Any other questions before I break, y'all? Again, there are 2 ways to get involved. Number 1, the most valuable way for you is to just go ahead and download Benson AI. It will do the work for you. And by the way, fun fact, we got a few things coming out that I do think are pretty exciting. One of those things, and I'll announce this a bit early because as soon as we have it ready, I'm coming back here to say, y'all, I need y'all to test it out. One of those things is that some people don't understand just how much money can be made in this investing game. So we have this tool coming out that is going to show you how much money you can actually make from this investing stuff. That is exciting. When I first got into this investing stuff, I was addicted to figuring out how much money I could make off of this. And I realized some people don't know how to find those answers. So we have a tool coming out that is going to answer that for you. But in addition to that, another tool that we're going to be releasing by the end of this week is a tool that will allow you to connect your Robinhood. And we will use AI to analyze your Robinhood for you. We're going to, and this partially becomes, there are a few people who have been requesting this. Marissa, you are one of those people. We are going to be releasing this tool this week. And Marissa, I'm going to hit you up and ask you to be the first person to test it out. And again, that tool is going to say, hey, look at, connect your Robinhood and we will analyze it for you. Plain and simple. We'll let you know, here are your crappy stocks. Here are some of your good ones. Do what you want with that information. Yeah, plain and simple. Oh, somebody said a joint account would be nice. When you say a joint account, what do you mean? Yeah. What do you mean when you say a joint account? Like, I guess with you and like your wife or husband, what do you mean a joint account? Because when you start investing and mixing money, stuff gets real tricky. People lose friendships over that. But if you're talking about, hey, a joint account with your partner, your husband or your wife, different story. I can say if we have enough demand for that, I will absolutely prioritize it. I think right now, our biggest thing is that we need to really make it clear just how much money you can make from this investing stuff, because that is when the light bulb moments go off for people. But a joint account with your husband or wife is a relatively easy thing for us to do. We would just have to spend some time figuring out what you expect to see. What do you expect to get out of that? But I'll spend some time noodling on it to see what we come up with. Any other final questions before I break, y'all? It's 8:31. Y'all know normally I'm getting off here at 9:30, so I'm about to get off a whole hour early. Part of it is because I got to be in the gym in the morning, but two, I also just started my marathon training. Hold on, over there, right there. Y'all see those medals? That is because I've completed a few marathons. It's only 3 medallions there. I've actually ran 4 marathons, but I am training now for my 5th marathon. Today was my first run of my marathon training. I got out there this morning. By the way, y'all, I am overweight relative to like my size. I'm on the heavier end right now. So getting out there to do 5 miles definitely took a lot out of me, y'all. I'll say that. And on top of that, it was raining this morning and it was 30 degrees outside. So getting out there when I haven't ran in months, I'm overweight right now. I am still getting over a cold. You can hear it. All of that. And I still got out there and did my 5 miles this morning. That gave me a lot of energy, but that also reminded me that I got to lock in. And a part of that locking in is I'm getting off early. But Pam, you are spot on. Pam saw it on my Instagram. Pam said, you look like you struggled today. Boy, I did. I struggled hard. This was not an easy run. I felt like I've never ran. That's how bad it was this morning. But the only thing that I care about right now is that I got my butt up 5 o'clock in the morning, got out there. And then, give me like 2 months. Boy, this weight is going to be off. Y'all going to see those cheekbones coming out a little bit more. I'm going to be back at hitting 12 miles. It's really about to be like that. But, you got to start somewhere. I lost the heat for a little bit, but boy, did it feel good to get out there this morning. Taj, it is good to see you. And you are spot on. Health is wealth, man. Diabetes runs in my family. So I'm like, yo, when I start getting a bit too heavy, I'm like, yo, it's time to get real. It's time to get real serious over here. And I do have a crazy sweet tooth. But when I'm training for a marathon, it's like everything locks in. My sleep schedule gets better. I start stretching a bit more. I'm eating better. Everything just starts to get better. So I had like one of those moments right before Thanksgiving. I was just like, yo, I feel heavy right now. I'm staying sick longer than I'm used to. I'm struggling with my breathing. Y'all could still hear it. Like I still got phlegm in my throat. But I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I identified what was my next marathon. And I said, yo, I'm buying the ticket now because I know if I don't buy it now, I'm going to wake up in 2 months and be like, oh, can I do it? Bro, I didn't give myself enough time. So this gives me 16 weeks to get ready. I did not know that. Peaches said, okra water reverses diabetes. I'm gonna look into that. Easter said, have you ever done a full marathon? Absolutely. You see those medals right there? I've done 4 marathons before. So this is actually about to be my 5th one. But yeah, those medals right there. I know it's only 3 medals right there. Hold on, right there. But yeah, I've actually ran 4 marathons before. At that point, I think like when I got started, I was trying to do like 2 marathons a year. For the year of 2024, I think I only ran 1 marathon. 2025, I'm absolutely hitting 2 marathons. My first marathon is going to be in March. I will update y'all for how that's going. So yeah, I've ran multiple marathons. Last thing before I break y'all, that last marathon, boy, that last marathon was something crazy. The last marathon was the orange one that is right there. That was the San Diego Rock and Roll. And something crazy about San Diego Rock and Roll is that on mile number 22, keep in mind a marathon is 26 miles, y'all. You're running 26 miles. That is a marathon. Straight. 26 miles. That's what a marathon is. For that marathon, which was by far my worst marathon ever, that one right there. San Diego Rock and Roll is the name of that one. At mile number 22. Mile number 22. So you're close to the end. By that time, your brain has shut off. You're just like, yo, just chugging along, just chugging. Your body is numb. You've seen people pass out at this point already. Mile number 22. These idiots, these freaking idiots, they put us on a 2-mile uphill stretch. 2 miles uphill. It's like you get to the bottom and it's on a freeway. You get to the bottom of this insane freeway and you just look up and you're like, I have to run all the way up there. You see people like crawling to get up this hill. And you're like, bro, you did this at mile number 22? Why would you be so sadistic to do this at mile number 22? People are crying to get to the finish line at mile number 22. Why did you tell us that we had to do a 2-mile uphill stretch? So that marathon, I worked hard for it. My body was wrecked. After that, I was just like, yeah, man, I need a little break. But I'm back into it. You are going to see over these next few lives, over the next 16 weeks, this face is going to be slimming down. I'm going to be getting off live a bit earlier, waking up. I'm also on Instagram kind of like documenting it. But, and I'm also a firm believer that if you have a big goal, you don't wait until January 1 to get started. I can't start this training on January 1 and be like, okay, new year, new me. Nah. You got to prove to yourself beforehand that you were locked in. I was talking to Roger this morning because he saw the Instagram and he was like, yo, I'm about to go run now because I saw you running. I'm like, my guy, if you're serious about the goals for 2026, you need to start in 2025. That's it, y'all. That's all I got. I need to jump off. Last order of business, if you are not on Benson, go ahead and download it. Let's not pretend that you're going to be able to watch all of these stocks the way that our AI is. Let's not pretend that you have the time or even the desire to analyze 1,000 stocks in a month. So the stocks that, we spoke about today, we're excited about those. Absolutely. But we found some even better ones. If you want to get on the app, all you do is go straight to the App Store, download Benson AI, and get set up. I will likely text you because I do like to hit up people when they download the app to see how things are going, give me some feedback, let me point you in the right direction, give you a few extra tips on how you could really juice up your returns. But, if you want to do this the hard way, go ahead and do it on your own. But if you want to, be on easy street, 2026 is about to look even better. With that said, y'all, I am out of here. Good night. I will be back Thursday. Be easy. We are on iPhone only, by the way. iPhone only. So, yes, I'm out. Good night, y'all. Pam, by the way, Pam, thank you for handling the chat. I don't know what was going on there earlier, but I saw that you had to, block a few people. Thank you for handling the chat. For y'all that don't know, Pam and a lot of other people here do use the app. They are day ones. Quite literally. Y'all see like the version of the app now. Pam and all the day ones, they were dealing with it back when, boy, you had to wait for me to get on a Zoom with you to get you set up. So when I say I value every single one of those people, they understand the vibe that we're trying to cultivate in here. They understand that this should be a place where we can ask questions, we can learn. This should not be a place where we're insulting people. We're talking about money, which is already a sensitive topic. I'm a black man talking about money as well. So we got to acknowledge the fact that anytime we see a black person talking about money, it's nerve wracking. Is it a scam, X, Y, and Z? So because of that, we have to be very serious and very intentional about what we allow here. We don't allow like the cursing. We don't allow the people coming in here insulting, attacking other people. So I do appreciate every single one of like our OG fam that has, answered questions in the chat, responded patiently. And by the way, these people are just like offering their free time. They are answering questions because, they are enjoying the product. They're on the journey with us. So I do want to say thank you to every single one of those people. Pam, I know that you had to block a few people because they were being a bit rude, but just for future's notice, everyone, this is a place where we want to learn, ask questions, but we are not here to talk crap. We're not here to, insult other people. We're talking about money, man. This is a very serious matter, and if we are open and transparent about this becomes a place where we can all learn and learn from each other. And that's what I like about this game, man. I'm like, investing is not a game where you eat off of my plate or I eat off of yours. There's enough room for us to all win. I will come here and I also talk about my losses. Credo, yes, is not one of those, by the way. Credo ain't one of them. But I do come here and be like, yo, I made a stupid decision. It's another story for another day. But shout out to Pam for handling the chat. I do appreciate everyone that chipped in, answered questions. Let's keep it going. I'll be back on Thursday. With that said, I hope that everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Let me get out of here because Courtney is reminding me that it is time to go. Peace out, y'all. Have a great evening. Get some rest. I'm still recovering from my sickness, so get some rest, y'all. Be easy. Boom.